Yeah, well, let's go to breaking. It was controversial, right? Because it's the first time in the Olympics. It's probably the only time it's going to be in the Olympics. There's a story that people can read now on SI.com by Stephanie Apstein. She was at the competition today and wrote about how the athletes viewed the competition, how they're aware that it was here this time. It is absolutely not going to be in Los Angeles in 2028. That program has already been set. It's not likely to be in Brisbane in 2032. So the athletes there were kind of just soaking up their one moment. I watched a fair amount of this.
I was gonna. That was my first question was gonna be, how much did you watch? Because I think that's a good baseline. Yeah.
So I watched a few of the prelims, and then I watched both of the medal matches. And it's like, the thing that I wrote down was, when it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. It's almost like a modernized kind of hip-hopified floor routine of gymnastics, right? Where they do some amazingly athletic moves. I think people don't appreciate, or maybe they didn't realize, they don't get to pick their music. They have no idea what the music is going to be. There's two DJs who are playing music, and they get to decide what the music is, and they change up the beat on you, and you got to change up your dance moves. Like, it's tricky that way, and it's really interesting to do it that way. The battle aspect of it, I was curious about, but it made perfect sense, because you're advancing through a bracket where the judges are scoring whether they like your moves better or your opponents. I liked how there was a lot of interaction between the dancers. Apparently the judges don't like when you repeat moves. And so when a dancer would repeat a move, their opponent would motion toward the judges with two fingers, like, hey, that's the second time they did that move. There was even in the bronze medal match, there was a woman from the Netherlands who went by the name India. That's the other thing, they all go by these nicknames. She went by the name India. Her opponent apparently had repeated several moves, so she just started counting to 10 on her fingers, calling her out for having repeated the move so many times. The person you gotta feel bad for is the Australian named Raygun. Did you follow Raygun's saga at all, Mitch?
I saw her compete at one point, but I can't say that I followed the saga too closely. I did see that people were talking about her online, yes, but I don't have all the details.
So she's being talked about in a negative way, because people are not exactly impressed with her performance. Raygun is a 36-year-old from Australia. She was among the older competitors in the competition. There was a 41-year-old from Japan who was great. I was surprised how nimble she was at 41, because at 36, Raygun she's getting a lot of hate online because she looked kind of stiff. She was not nearly as acrobatic as the other athletes. Even just the way that she dressed, wearing a baseball cap and sweatpants, looked kind of lame. And she's a college professor, and she's a former ballroom and jazz dancer who got into breaking, I said 10 years ago, because her husband's into it. And so, yeah, she was not so good. She did not score any points in any of her battles, which was disappointing for her, but understandable if you watched her. I'm sure, just go on Twitter and you'll see a whole bunch of people sharing clips of her just kind of rolling on the ground, I guess you would say, charitably. She was not great. And certainly, the appeal of the Olympics, that it's a worldwide event. But something that made the inclusion of breaking controversial was, it's this art form that originated with black folks in the South Bronx, right? And now you're kind of corporatizing it and taking it to to the Olympics. It felt there was a weird disconnect between this street culture and the Olympics, and the big fake boombox they had on the set, and the guys trying to hype up the crowd, and you feel obviously this is a thing that originated with minorities in just doing things for fun to express themselves, really just truly in the streets on pieces of cardboard. And now it's this Olympic thing where it's really polished, and it didn't really. It seemed there was a weird disconnect there. A learning experience, having watched it. It'll be going on tomorrow again with the men. I think it's not. Was that the B-boys? Yes. So it's not doing itself any favors in terms of getting back to the Olympics. But I'm glad it was included. We got to see it at least.
Yeah. So I came into it with an open mind, and I think we talked about this on our very first preview show that. When everyone heard this news, I think we all many of us, and you and I included in that, laughed at it. And then I think as we got closer and closer to the games, I thought, okay, I'm going to watch. I'm going to give it a shot. And and they had Snoop Dogg bless the proceedings, which was funny. They had this little ceremony where he came out in the middle, and Snoop Dogg has obviously, he's been all over the place on NBC's coverage, but I wasn't sure like how international he is. Like if the other countries watching on their own television stations are aware of just how much Snoop Dogg is dominating the television coverage in this country.
Yeah.
But this was like an official ambassador position because he wasn't just doing whatever in the NBC broadcast booth or in the stands. He was like out on the floor, like right before they started. He was like, you know, I am Snoop Dogg and we let's do this. So like stomping. He had like a scepter almost that he like banged in the middle of the circle. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say like, I think some people think, oh, this is the end of the Olympics as I knew it, or this is a joke, this is a travesty. And I don't feel that strongly, but I'm kind of like, all right, we saw it once. It was interesting. I'm sure I'll watch a little bit more tomorrow when the B-boys go. But, you know, it didn't feel right.
I think the main thing for me was like just the presentation of it. Like, you know, I watched some of the world championships to prep for this project, and it was different. And you know, it just like, it felt more like raw. It felt more like, it wasn't, because there's fewer fans, right? And the fans who were there, they were more, they're more familiar with what they're watching, right? So I think that and again, I encourage everyone to read the article by Steph Epstein on SI.com, because she got into that. You know, one of the I think she spoke to one of the Americans who said, yeah, like the environment was kind of strange. Like there wasn't as much energy as I'm used to at these competitions. And then there was even another quote in there, I think it was from one of the Italian competitors, who said, yeah, this is not a sport. I don't know why it's in the Olympics, so I'm glad I got to be here, basically paraphrasing. So, yeah, I think there's some things to, if they were going to bring it back, some things to fine tune in terms of presentation. You know, maybe they do it in a smaller environment where, you know, there's fewer fans, and I don't know. There's different ways to tweak it that might make it more successful. But in terms of a first experiment, I think it went decently well.
Yeah, well, halfway through. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see.
Sure, yeah.
Let's see who gets memed on Saturday before
we'll see if B-boy Phil Wizard can wow the crowd.
Yes, exactly.